Hi, HRN listeners. We're celebrating our 15th anniversary, and we have a really fun campaign and an ask for you. This 15th anniversary tour is aiming to bring you closer to unique food and music experiences in some of the most exciting cities in America. All the while, we're raising funds to support our work empowering the next generation of food system storytellers through our fellowship programs. Here's how it works. Donate to HRN and be entered into a raffle in the city of your choice to win a dinner for two at a noteworthy restaurant and tickets for two to a concert at a prominent local venue. We have incredible partners in New York, Los Angeles, Philadelphia, Nashville, Las Vegas, Charleston, Asheville, and Ardmore, Pennsylvania, who have donated a meal for two and two tickets to a concert of the winner's choice. And all donations help fund our fellowship programs, where we're helping to build essential workforce readiness skills and food system storytelling skills. Check out heritageradionetwork.org/15 to donate and enter to win today. That's heritageradionetwork.org/15. Thank you.
My name is Brandon Hoy, co-owner of Roberta's, a super duper awesome place. Roberta's is a very, 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 very proud sponsor of the Heritage Radio Network. We're also super awesome. Thank you, Heritage.
You're listening to Heritage Radio Network, broadcasting live from Bushwick, Brooklyn. If you like this program, visit heritageradionetwork.org for thousands more.
Hello, Mr. and Mrs. America, from border to border, coast to coast, and all the ships at sea. Streaming live from the County of Kings, Brooklyn, New York City, on the Heritage Radio Network. Are you ready for the fastest half hour on the internet today? It's the Mike and Judy Show, spanning the globe for high-minded hijinks and lowbrow kicks to bring you the best in sex, drugs, rock and roll, and nuclear fission. They're too bad for radio and too good-looking for television. And now, here they are, to pluck the low-hanging fruit of the literati. Your hosts, Mike Edison and Judy McGuire.
Welcome to this week's Mike and Judy Show. It is not Mike Edison this week. It's my friend Michael Gonzalez.
Hello.
Being our substitute Mike.
Yes. City of Mikes.
Sorry. Anyway, Michael, welcome.
Thank you.
How do you feel sitting in Mike Edison's chair? Do you think you can fill it?
I'm trying. I feel very... hopefully
Shy?
by the end of the half hour I'll get there.
Have a little more beer.
Yes. In the shower.
Today we're welcoming two of my favorite artists, James Romberger and Marguerite Van Cook, because they're re-releasing the brilliant 7 Miles a Second that David Wojnarowicz, a New York artist who sadly died of AIDS, wrote, and these guys did the artwork on it. Welcome.
Oh, hi, Judy.
Hi, thanks for having us.
Thanks for coming.
Hi, Mike.
Thank you.
So why 7 Miles a Second was released when? In like 86? No, 96. God, we're old. But 96. And why re-release it now?
Well, I think that the issues that the book talks about haven't gone away. I mean, AIDS is still out there. It's got more treatments available, but it's still a problem. It's a problem all over the world, and David himself is still a prominent individual, even though he's passed away. Last year, there was a whole controversy involving the Smithsonian kicking a film of his out of an exhibition, which was all over the newspapers and strangely kind of represented weirdly. But
so what was the film about? Why would the Smithsonian do such a thing?
Well, the film was about a trip he'd made to Mexico, and it showed a lot of very horrific imagery from his trip to Mexico, and it was intercut with some sort of messages about the effect of religion on the culture there, and how poverty isn't really dealt with in any kind of rational fashion. So he'd actually destroyed the film, but what is in circulation now is that people have tried to reconstruct his original version. So
Who's in,
People took a lot of offense. There were ants crawling on a cross, amongst other things.
as someone who went to Catholic school, I'm highly offended by
Yeah.
that.
I was an altar boy, but I'm not offended.
That didn't take.
You have ants in your pants.
So the book, the Fantagraphics version, I just had the Vertigo version, which is paperback graphic novel. It kind of got lost in the shuffle, even though, David Wojnarowicz has always been pretty famous. Like, what is the difference? Why should people buy the Fantagraphics version, aside from the fact that it's incredibly beautiful?
This version is really a lot closer to the way we envisioned it originally. It looks more like what you would call a European album, which is a hardcover, slightly larger size. The work is restored to the original watercolors rather than being digital color, which had originally been interpreted from Marguerite's color. Now you're seeing Marguerite's actual color.
It's beautiful.
There's pages that
we were excited. We were excited to have it look how we intended it to look.
Right.
So how did you channel David's color? I mean, David was also an artist besides being a writer, an activist, a musician, and like 50 million other things. How did you know, did you feel good about the colors? How did you choose them? Do you feel like you channeled him at all, or?
Well, to some extent, I tried to channel him. In some cases, I went into the place and looked at the colors.
Mm-hmm.
Like we were talking before about Nathan's, which actually was a really gad green and yellow, even though it looks like I just completely made up these insane colors.
That's Nathan's up on Times Square.
Yeah, on Times Square. And some of it I knew his palette because I used to use his paint, because he used to buy this very cheap paint from Utrecht. They'll kill me for saying that, but it was a bargain,
Right.
And so I knew how that worked. And then the other part of it, I just stayed up really late at night and tried to imagine myself into some of these kind of really horrible scenes.
Now, there was a story I read about the first version of this book. As you guys finished it, you did a tarot reading, and he was saying, "I'm sorry, I love this shit." James is laughing. Like, one of my best friends is an astrologer.
Well, I sound a little crazy going, "Oh, well, I was," but in fact, I had this particular deck, a Kundalini deck, which is really a beautiful deck, and so I was like playing with it. And these cards kept coming up, and there was like some hot and heavy and some really crazy images, demons with their tongues out. And I said, "Oh my God, this is just this is David." I was, I really got it really loud and clear. It's like, do this, do it now.
And so you yelled at James to get back on it.
So I was like, "Yeah, we got to do this."
Well, certainly other people of David's friends thought they saw him. I know somebody told me they saw him up in a tree or in dreams and this and that.
I've seen
maybe
ghosts.
it's wishful thinking, but
yeah.
I don't think that's so hard. I mean, he was a very strong presence alive, right?
I mean, for my part, it's like I wasn't able to finish the book before he died, so I had to kind of finish the last part from his instruction, vaguely from his instructions. But
tell us how you guys met him. I mean, you were all part of the East Village art scene in the 80s. Did you have a show together? You had a gallery, didn't you?
At the time I met him, Marguerite had a rehearsal studio on Avenue A, and she said, go around the corner. I had like a few pastel drawings I kept rolled up, and she said, go around the corner to this new gallery, Civilian Warfare, and show them your work. So I walked around, and there was this tall dude with like hacking away at this sort of totem pole
with
thing.
a hatchet on the street, of course, in the East Village in those
I think
days.
the show at the time was Greer Langton, this a transsexual artist. Anyway, David was in the gallery working on his show, which was going to be the next one. And I said, I have some work. And he goes, Dean's not here, but I'll look at it. So I unrolled these things. He's like, wow, it's like, you should come back when Dean's here. And he had this very deep, rolling voice. And, oh, my God, this guy. It's like Robert Mitchum or something. It's like I never would have pegged him as gay in the first time when I met him, because he had this kind of macho kind of thing.
Right.
But over the next couple of years, I don't know, we just hung out. He came when we actually took over that space. The owner ended up giving it to us, and then at some point David came in, and we asked him to do a show, and he was like,
we got on very well with David, because essentially our motto was go harder. So if you were an artist and you wanted to do something, push the boundaries, we were pretty much say, yeah, okay, that's good. Now go push it a little harder.
Not turn it into like Precious Moments figurines.
No.
Well, we weren't concentrating on what would sell. We were more like we wanted the most intense thing you could possibly do. So.
Because the East Village was a very different place back then. I mean, you could afford rent and not sell, $1,000 paintings and stuff.
Well, you'd like to, but
yeah.
you weren't really counting on it. We lived in the back of the gallery, actually, so, I mean, it was kind of doing double duty, and we were artists ourselves, so in a way, like, if there was a show up, well, it meant I didn't have a wall to work on, but...
Can I ask you one thing? I mean, how did you get DC involved with the book in the first place? I mean, DC being the home of Superman and Batman, it seems like something that they might shy away from, being kind of a conservative company.
I mean, at the time that went through, they had Paradox, and Vertigo was in its early stages, and the book did sit on several desks, but I was assured that there's no way they would ever print it.
Right.
But meanwhile, Jeanette Kahn, who ran DC at that time, was friends with people at Exit Art, and when I did a show of the originals at PPOW when the book was originally finished, Exit Art sent Jeanette Kahn down to PPOW to look at the artwork, and she went back to Vertigo and said, do it.
Wow.
Just do it exactly the way they want it.
Nice.
It's because it's such a contrast from Superman.
I mean, I'll give them credit that Vertigo did print this thing that is utterly unlike anything that DC ever in a million years would print.
Yeah, definitely.
But I don't think they really quite knew what to do with it. So.
Well, that was the thing with comics back then. They were put in humor if they were graphic novels or just,
No, there was no graphic. I mean, look at it this way. There was no... This only went to... The original printing in 1996 only went to comic shops. They never got to bookstores. So.
Luckily, comics fans are known as being really gay-friendly and open-minded.
Yeah, it was kind of like... It was a comic you can't even hide under your bed.
Yeah,
if Dad finds this, you're really in trouble.
There's nothing really to jerk off into.
You find it with his pages stuck together.
So how is it... James, you worked with Crosby on this new book, Post York, and you work with your wife. Like, how do you two especially work together without killing each other? I mean, is it ever a problem? Do you complement each other?
Actually, we're ghosts.
Shut up.
He has a few knife wounds on his back that we just cover for when he's in the pub. No, we get on pretty well.
Well, we've done paintings together. We do comics together. You just. Right now, actually, we're working on a book of Marguerite's childhood, and she wrote it, but then I'm sitting there and doing my thing in the other room. But then she'll come back in, and we'll talk it over. Yeah. The same way when I was doing the thing with Crosby, he came in and I consulted with him while I was working on it. Mm-hmm. I like to work with other people, but it's like in the case of this alternative comics situation, it's just it's only a few people working on it, and you're able to kind of have full, final cut over the thing, and then the publisher is hopefully just facilitating it coming out. It's not like you have these overseers when you're working in the corporate situation. So,
how did Fantagraphics approach? Did you approach them to re-release it? I mean, and were they good editors? What did they do?
I had sent Eric Reynolds at Fantagraphics some stories just because I had these stories kicking around. I sent him one out of the blue, and he put it in the last issue of Mome. That was their anthology. And then I was like, well, I should probably send him the 7 Miles. I was like, I don't know. I figured they'd seen it, but as it turns out, I sent it to him. He's like, oh, yeah, this is great. And he showed it to Gary Groth and Kim Thompson. They're like, oh, this is great. But they hadn't actually seen it. I don't know how that's possible, but they hadn't. But it didn't. It was really less than a year ago that I sent it to them.
I mean, they have been really great. No, they have not put a hand on it in any kind of, negative way. There's been no fighting about, James said, I want to put the discs back on the cover. They're like, okay. Yeah, go for it. Yeah, make it exactly. It was just like, oh my God, this is a blessing.
Yeah, there was actually not a single bit of obstacle put in the way in any way at all. So,
that's weird.
Amazing.
Uncanny.
That's just wrong.
I'm not quite sure how I hadn't gone to them in the first place. That's kind of strange.
Yeah, I mean, go ahead.
I'm sorry. I was curious because there's not a lot of comic book artists who are comic book artists as well as being fine artists. I guess with the exception of Kent Williams or maybe some of the newer artists these days, not too many people go into the museum or gallery world. Can you talk a little bit about that?
I mean, I thought I was going to be a comic artist. I didn't ever really set out to be a fine artist, but when we ended up running galleries in the East Village, I kind of fell into the idea of doing single pieces. I mean, Marguerite was certainly in the gallery. She was instrumental in the kind of thing where we had artists do installations that were site-specific. I mean, this isn't really my area of just, conceptual art. But, I mean, I certainly didn't mind
being collected by the Met.
All this is completely
he's just good. He's just good, and he'll walk out and see something, and 9 times out of 10, no, not even notes, just come back and just draw it, and you're just like, oh God, how did you do that?
Yeah, I mean, if anyone hasn't seen James Romberger's art, you have to look it up. It's beautiful stuff, like pastels, like you've never seen them.
I was looking at some of the Lower East Side scenes last night, and I don't know.
On Facebook?
On Facebook. Yeah. Not on Facebook. I just Google image, and all this stuff came up. And some of the, night scenes on the Lower East Side, it just took me back to a whole other time.
Yeah, that's one of the places where we did have issues, because pastels are very dirty.
Oh, yeah.
So when he's doing the daytime scenes, it's like light dust in the house.
Right.
Doing the nighttime scenes, it's like black grime all over the whole house. I'm like, oh my God. I'm kidding. Because they're spectacular.
They're so beautiful. But we're going to take a break, and we're going to hear, actually, the spawn of James and Marguerite do a song. What are we hearing?
It's Post York, the song from that. It comes with the Post York comic from Uncivilized Books. It's Crosby... And it's a flexi disc that's attached to the book. But this is the song Post York by Crosby.
Yeah. Thanks.
Thank you.
Many buildings have survived intact. The wave traveled over 2
Recent
miles.
studies have shown that half the island could collapse into the sea during volcanic activity, and some experts fear that this event could also generate a giant wave.
More ground is exposed. As the ground warms up, the ice melts even less.
It flooded my city, I dream it's coming to get me. Each wave crashes down when it hits me, but I'm not dreaming, don't pinch me. Hydrants used to splash the curb, skyscrapers are half submerged. Solid ground is fast to blur, I'm walking on water but that's absurd. I never thought in a million years I'd get stuck in these buildings here. Streets look bright and filled with tears, yet still I'm here, feeling weird. Will you watch from the rooftops, people carry me for 2 blocks. I swear I need a new dock and a waterproof wash. I feel naked and alone, but I make it on my own. Will I sink or will I float? While I think up in this boat, I give it my heart and all my soul. All I have left now is this hope. The world is a bottle of wine with no quote. My big city of dreams, Post York. I can't sleep or peep, I feel so dead. And every night that goes by, I wonder when it will end. My mom used to sing a lullaby to me in bed. Now there's not a day that goes by, it's not stuck in my head. I'm trying to just keep dry. 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 So I set the city on fire. I set the city on fire. So I set the city on fire. I set the city on fire. I'm just trying to keep dry. I set the city on fire. On fire. I'm just trying to keep dry. I set the city on fire. On fire. I'm just trying to keep dry. I set the city on fire. On fire. I'm just trying to keep dry. I set the city on fire. On fire. All these days that I can't get back. 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 And there's no matter life and I can't keep track. Every tally's a day that I scratch. Just what I'm giving and wishing it back. The last one to laugh with a cascading glass. I scavenge and scratch just to add to my stash. The city collapsed from a living attack. I anchor my past but there's nothing attached. Talk when I started to spark with a match. Kerosene rope and I hope it'll catch. So mad that I handle my paddle like rap. If it wasn't just flooded with nothing but crap. Carrying each life while swimming with rats. Surviving alive is my vision I have. I cast a last stone alone in the glass. Blowing it home to Kitsy the cat. Niggas try to keep track. I set the city on fire. On fire. I'm just trying to keep track. I set the city on fire. On fire. I'm just trying to keep track. I set the city on fire. On fire. I'm just trying to keep track. I set the city on fire. On fire.
And we're back with James Romberger and Marguerite Van Cook. That is your son. Where do you think he got that musical talent from?
Jeez, I thought it must come from Marguerite because I'm pretty terrible.
James plays. We've been in bands together.
But you toured with The Clash.
I did, and it was a fantastic experience. We did about 36 dates without stop, and then we came back and we played the Sid Vicious benefit with them, and they were so great. And I have nothing but good things to say about The Clash. And it was us, the Slits, and The Clash, which means there were more women on that tour than there were men.
Did your periods sync up? Come on.
Was that when the Clash played at Bonds and Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five opened for them?
We toured with them in England. It was the Give Them Enough Rope tour.
Okay.
But I came to the Bonds gig. Yeah, and that was very cool. Yeah, I love Flash.
I only heard about it. It was
yeah.
like one of those legendary shows.
I went to 2 of those shows.
Yeah.
I cut school to wait in line.
Wow.
But I was telling Marguerite during the break, like one of the highlights of my life was interviewing Joe Strummer because I was always a huge Clash fan, and I'm so happy. You have nothing bad to say about him.
No. When we played the Music Machine, they were outside online making sure people got in. And they were like, people were trying to charge more for different things at different places, and they were like, no, we're not letting you charge more. We want our fan base to be, taken care of. And when they went to see other bands, they always paid.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, which means a lot at that point.
Yeah, you see people now, like all these like rich famous people just want free stuff. It's like you can afford to buy stuff.
That's how they get rich.
I know.
God's paying for everything.
This asshole here is buying stuff
and tipping people. Actually.
And tipping people. But so when did you move to the U.S.?
I came right after that tour, pretty much, and then I played a little bit around New York, and then I felt like punk was kind of done. It was new wave.
It was new wave, and then there was hardcore.
And then, so, I was like, okay, I'm going to play in a reggae band
now. So were you friendly with Ari Up?
Yeah. I actually, oh boy, she died, and I sang at her benefit, her memorial benefit. She was great. What a great girl, Our drummer left the stage once on tour, and she ran on the stage, sat on the drums, and just picked it up and started playing. I have nothing bad to say about her either. She's so funny.
So how was it like raising... I mean, it must have been... Crosby must have had the best childhood, having two cool, like, artists, musician, artsy-fartsy types as parents. Like, on the Lower East Side, he was on the cover of a Cop Shoot Cop record when he was little.
All right.
And now he's a musician. I mean,
I think it might have convinced him not to be a visual artist because it's like such a good way to start.
He's not taking that to heart. He draws.
But he's very good at montages.
He's got his own skills, and he makes movies, and he's doing a lot of rock videos for people, and he's a filmmaker. So, props to Crosby.
So he didn't rebel and become a young Republican or anything.
No.
Thank God.
I just want to get a little geek boy for a second.
Go for it.
Because James and I were having a little conversation earlier. We were talking about influences and friends, and you were talking about Jim Steranko, and I was telling you about I was a fan of Bernie Wrightson and Jeff Jones and those guys. Talk a little bit about reading comic books when you were a kid and just getting sucked into that world, and what made you want to actually do it professionally.
Maybe I could say that one of the things is when you're looking at some of these great comic artists that, to me, one of the things was that I'd see that people do these kind of strange individual drawing tics. And they very much, a lot of people now kind of do these very perfected styles, but what I like is these ones where somebody does, like, Kirby would do these kind of square fingers or something, or Jim Steranka would do a lot of knobby knees or something, and you go, wow, that's like a human drew this. It's almost like the mistakes make you feel like you could do it too. It's like, oh, these people aren't perfect. They're doing something that by hand. So to me, like, when I look at a lot of stuff now, although I respect the effort I just wished it looked a little more hand done. So, for instance, like in 7 Miles a Second, I did the lettering. It's not digital, and I prefer the watercolor color as opposed to the digital plastic finish. I do like to see the human hand, and I think that's one of the attractions of it, because you can see a lot of things that are very perfected technologically, but it's the value of the human doing it, I think, is important. But
what was it like writing the end of the book without David being around? Did you feel, was that torturous? Because, I mean, you don't want to get it wrong. I know you had...
it was, yeah, I mean, his lover, Tom Rauffenbart, gave me access to his final diaries, so I had to kind of go through these, which was pretty grim. But, I mean, I did find things that corresponded to our final conversations. But he had wanted it to end with this beautiful, happy day where he's happy to be alive. And I couldn't find anything in his writing that would correspond with that. So he really just dies at the end. So you have this odd book that the writer actually dies in front of your face at the end of the book. But, I mean, I think you were asked earlier, like, why would this book be put out now? And I think that one of the things that impresses people about David is the aggressive voice. His voice is out there talking about stuff. And when you have a situation now with the politics, you can call it like a partisan divide, but when you have people like the way that the 1%, for instance, dominates everything and has taken every penny, it's like you need a voice to respond to that. And losing David was a big loss because he was so honest. And what we need is people to come out that are that honest and say things that directly.
I mean, do you see anybody taking up that mantle?
Not necessarily, so... I think that somebody will, but...
Yeah, I mean, the grassroots organizing sort of activism does seem to be, with Occupy and stuff.
Yeah, I think the Occupy was important.
Oh, we're thrilled. I'm thrilled a bit, so I was like, yeah.
I mean, it does seem like the media kind of downplays it as much as they can, in a sense of whatever they call it, the liberal media. I don't really see it as being very liberal because they're really downplaying the Occupy as much as they could, it seemed to me.
It's like when they call Obama liberal, it's like, no, not liberal enough.
I mean, whatever he wants to do, I think he's stymied by, even if he was trying to do something good, he's completely stymied by the people that are just, gerrymandering their way into, dominating whatever dialogue there is. So.
I read Cynthia Carr's book, which was, a brilliant biography of Wojnarowicz, and there's a great story about you guys with Carlo McCormick and David going to Virginia on some road trip in a house, and there was like, they freaked out when you crazy New Yorkers got there. Could you guys, why don't you talk a little bit about that? Like, okay.
I mean, we certainly
I wish
went.
it was television.
We went, and there's actually a new spread in the book that shows it's from the point of view of being in the backseat of David's car. He drove us to Virginia. We went there, and they hadn't really arranged a decent place for us to stay, so we kind of like slept on the floor in this building, then went in and painted. We painted directly on the wall.
We painted on this pristine gallery with pristine floors, and we just destroyed it. We tore it up. There was us, Keiko Bonk, who went on to become a congresswoman in Hawaii.
Oh.
And David West, who wrote "Fuck you, fuck your mother, fuck you, dada," right around the whole room. And these
psychological.
Marilyn Minter, who's now
done
done very well. So it was kind of like a complete free-for-all with rats and just all kinds of stuff crawling.
Did they preserve it at all?
Well, I don't think. I think they came in and were absolutely horrified. They just had this beautiful wooden floor, and we hadn't really put adequate, But they didn't provide us with anything. We just, we just went in and did what we normally would do, and here was this big mess.
They had put four crates of beer in the middle of the room.
Right, here's the artist, just feed them beer or something. And,
not even refrigerated.
Yeah. It was the 80s, though, right?
But they kind of thought we were like some sort of freak show and treated us like that. And well, they didn't provide adequate protection for their gallery, so we just fucked it up real good.
Well, we were scared going down there, too, because we were going down to Virginia. And, it was like, oh, we're going to the South now. And David was gay, and we were,
David and Louise.
Yeah, we all looked pretty crazy. We were all, in our still punk glory or whatever the hell we were doing. So it was a little nerve-wracking. I remember going in for a hamburger and being like, oh, my God, will we make it out of here alive?
Oh, here's the people from New York City.
It was very... I drove across country with a gay friend of mine, and we went down through West Virginia, and we were just scared shitless because I had a nose ring, and he was gay, so he kept putting on sports memorabilia. Then he was worried that people would ask him about the sporting team, so he switched to Olympic gear.
It's a whole other world down south, though. It's a little weird down here. I mean, I've lived in the South, so I can truthfully say that.
Well, I just came back from New Orleans, and I went down to do the Fringe Festival with my girlfriend Nessa Norwich in a play, and it was great. They were so fantastic.
But that's like a little island of crazy in the South. that's not like real.
Yeah, but there's like cool people like the butthole surfers in Texas or something. No, there isn't. No, even the cracker states aren't completely full of clowns. It's like.
But you have to risk your life to get to them.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's true.
Anyway, we're out of time. I want to tell people Fantagraphics is releasing 7 Miles a Second. I think on Tuesday, right?
Well,
it's available in the Strand and Barnes
It's available
and Noble
in some
right now.
bookstores, and I guess early February in the comic shops. So.
Yeah, I mean, Gabe at Desert Island or whatever it's called.
He should have some.
He said Tuesday.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Yay.
So, and you can order it on Amazon. And where can we find you guys online?
And you can get Post York from postyork.com or uncivilizedbooks.com. And,
Marguerite, where can we find you?
MargueriteVanCook.com.
All right. Do you have a website too, James?
You
could just go to the Met and find him.
Yeah, we have a big footprint on the.
Yeah, go to Desert Island in Brooklyn. We like that place.
Yeah, they're nice. Michael Gonzalez, thank you so much for stepping into and helping out this week.
Well, thank you, Judy, for inviting me.
And next week we're going to be here with John Holmstrom from Punk Magazine.
Hey,
Hey, up for John.
Thank you.
Thank
Goodbye.
you, Judy. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks for listening to this program on heritageradionetwork.org. You can find all of our archived programs on our website or as podcasts in the iTunes Store by searching Heritage Radio Network. You can like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter at @heritage_radio. You can email us questions at any time at info@heritageradionetwork.org. Heritage Radio Network is a non-profit organization. To donate and become a member, visit our website today. Thanks for listening.
Hey there, I'm Lee Ullman here with some big news from the National Young Farmers Coalition. We're partnering with Heritage Radio Network on a special season of The Farm Report. It's all about what's happening with the Farm Bill and how it impacts farmers and eaters.
I am growing diversified vegetables on land that's been in our family for 150 years.
And so with the pandemic, gentrification, property values going up, we had to sell the land and we lost it.
Join us as we uncover the untold stories behind this massive piece of legislation that shapes how we grow our food, what we eat, and so much more.
The problems we have had, those are things that come from earlier Farm Bill and USDA policy, right? Like Earl Butz, get big or get out.
It's my responsibility to know not only what I'm eating, but then like how that all came to be, and realize like, wow, like this piece of legislation, all this money, like it's technically something that I support as a taxpayer.
While Congress debates the next Farm Bill, this is not just an invitation to listen. It's a call to action. Be part of the conversation. Subscribe to the Farm Report on Heritage Radio Network, wherever you listen to podcasts.